What happens when artistry meets chaos? Xavi Simons, the wonderkid from Barcelona's academy, now Europe's brightest playmaker. Mohammed Kudus, the powerhouse dribbler who thrives in chaos. Alone, they're dangerous. Together, they're unstoppable. But are Spurs really ready for what this duo could unleash? Tottenham's midfield hasn't always been the stuff of nightmares. In fact, just a season ago, it was considered their biggest weakness. James Maddison and Dejan Kulusevski, two of their most creative outlets, were sidelined with injuries, leaving Spurs without a natural number 10 for long stretches. What followed was a midfield that looked flat, predictable, and easy to shut down. The summer window didn't exactly inspire confidence at first either. Deals for big names like Gibbs-White all fell through, fueling the idea that Tottenham would once again head into a season without the spark they desperately needed. For supporters, it felt like the same old story. Plenty of effort, but not enough end product. But then, almost out of nowhere, everything changed. Spurs pivoted, and instead of settling for second choices, they landed not one but two headline makers, Xavi Simons and Mohammed Kudus. Suddenly, what looked like a thin and uninspiring midfield became the club's most dangerous weapon. And if you think that's impressive, just wait until you hear the story of the first superstar who will carry Tottenham into a new era. Xavi Simons is not your typical young midfielder. Born in Amsterdam and raised in Barcelona's legendary La Masia Academy, his career has always carried a sense of destiny. He was the kid with the golden curls, tipped from an early age to become one of the next great European playmakers. But what separates Simons from so many other wonder kids is that he's already proven himself at every step. At just 22, he's played in the Netherlands, France, and Germany, collecting trophies and making a name as one of Europe's most versatile attackers. His breakthrough came at PSV, where he scored 22 goals in the 2022-23 season, not as a striker, but from midfield. That golden boot run at such a young age showed the world he wasn't just potential, he was already production. What makes Simons special is his completeness. He's a creator who can dribble past defenders in tight spaces, a carrier who breaks lines with ease, and a finisher who arrives in the box at just the right moment. His football IQ allows him to read the game 2 steps ahead, while his versatility means he can play anywhere across midfield or even out wide. For Tottenham, that flexibility is priceless. He can be the conductor in a midfield 3, the spark behind the striker, or even a winger drifting inside to create chaos. He is artistry personified, elegance, intelligence, and flair wrapped into one. But artistry alone isn't enough to dominate the Premier League. You need something wilder, something more destructive to balance it, and that's where his partner in crime enters the picture. If Xavi Simons is artistry, Mohammed Kudus is pure chaos. The Ghanaian international has built his reputation on being one of the most unpredictable and explosive players in Europe. From his early days at Nordsjælland to his rise at Ajax, Kudus has always had that rare ability to grab a game by the scruff of the neck and bend it to his will. His move to West Ham in 2023 put him on the Premier League stage, and he didn't take long to make his mark. Whether playing on the right wing, through the middle, or even as a makeshift striker, Kudus brought fire. His dribbling is fearless, his shooting is thunderous, and his physicality makes him a nightmare to dispossess. In fact, there were stretches last season where he looked almost unplayable, gliding past defenders as if they weren't there. What makes Kudus such a rare weapon is his versatility. He's not limited to one role or one position. He thrives in chaos, adapting to whatever the game demands. He can track back and fight for possession, burst forward to finish a counterattack, or drift between the lines to open space for his teammates. And crucially, he has that clutch factor. He shows up in the biggest moments, whether it's in Europe or on Premier League nights under the lights. Kudus is the storm to Simons' elegance, the disruptor who can destabilize even the best defenses in the league. And while he's already shown what he can do on his own, the real intrigue comes when you start imagining what happens when his chaos is paired with Simons' artistry, because together, they're not just good, they're terrifying. When you put Xavi Simons and Mohammed Kudus side by side, you don't just get two talented midfielders, you get a partnership built on contrast and complementarity. Simons is the conductor, Kudus is the disruptor. One dictates tempo, the other breaks it. And in modern football, that balance is priceless. Think about what Simons brings: vision, rhythm, and control. He's constantly scanning, constantly thinking too 2 or 3 passes ahead, threading balls through tight gaps and drawing defenders out of position. He slows games down when Spurs need composure and accelerates them when space opens up. He is the stabilizer. Now contrast that with Kudus: unpredictable movement, fearless dribbling, and raw power. He doesn't just receive the ball, he attacks it, surging past markers and driving straight into the heart of defenses. He thrives on destabilizing structure, forcing opponents into panic and creating openings where none seem to exist. Together, these two create a midfield dynamic that is almost impossible to prepare for. If you press too high to limit Simons' passing, Kudus will simply carry the ball through you. If you sit deep to protect against Kudus' dribbles, Simons will pick you apart with surgical precision. Their strengths don't cancel each other out, they magnify them. And perhaps most importantly, they both carry versatility. Simons can drop deeper or drift wide. Kudus can push up as a second striker or slot inside as a central midfielder. That fluidity gives Thomas Frank a tactical weapon that no formation can truly contain. It's artistry and chaos fused into one midfield engine, the type of pairing that can tilt games and silence stadiums. And the question now isn't whether they'll work together, it's how devastating they'll become once the chemistry truly clicks. Because once they do, Spurs' opponents will have more than just two names to worry about. What makes Xavi Simons and Mohammed Kudus even scarier is not just their individual brilliance, but how Thomas Frank can deploy them in different systems. Spurs are no longer locked into one rigid setup. They now have a midfield that can shapeshift depending on the opponent. In a classic 4-2-3-1, Simons can slot in as the central playmaker, orchestrating from the number 10 role, while Kudus drifts inside from the right or left. This allows Simons to dictate tempo, while Kudus stretches defenses with his direct running and off-ball chaos. It's balance with bite. Switch to a 4-3-3 and the picture changes. Simons can play as an advanced left-sided interior, linking with the forwards, while Kudus takes on a box-to-box role, pressing high and breaking lines with his dribbling. Against opponents who want to sit deep, this system overwhelms them with movement and unpredictability. And then there's the nuclear option, a 4-2-2-2, where Simons and Kudus can operate as dual attacking midfielders behind the strikers. Imagine both of them popping up in half spaces, one drawing defenders while the other cuts through. For defenses, it's chaos squared. The versatility of these two not only gives Spurs tactical flexibility, it forces opponents into uncomfortable choices. Do you man-mark Simons and risk leaving Kudus free? Do you double up on Kudus and let Simons pull strings untouched? There's no right answer. And that's why this isn't just about signings, it's about transformation. Spurs now have a midfield built to adapt, evolve, and strike from anywhere. For all the hype, there's a reason Spurs fans shouldn't start celebrating just yet. Both Xavi Simons and Mohammed Kudus carry question marks. For Simons, the challenge is consistency. He's dazzled in the Eredivisie and shown flashes in the Bundesliga, but the Premier League is a different beast. Faster, more physical, more relentless. Can he dictate games week in, week out against the likes of Rodri, Rice, and Casemiro? Kudus, meanwhile, has struggled with injuries throughout his young career. His explosiveness is his greatest strength, but it's also what puts strain on his body. If Spurs are to truly rely on him, he'll need to stay fit across the grind of a long season. And then comes the biggest question: chemistry. On paper, Simons and Kudus are perfect complements, but football isn't played on paper. Will they sync seamlessly, or will one outshine and overshadow the other? Because if they get it right, this duo could redefine Tottenham's midfield for an entire generation.